Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Like and share this video. Join the Rabyd Nation, a nation of people dedicated to normalizing atheism and deconversion by hitting the subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel in a more tangible way, hit the join button and your membership options that lead to citizenship in the Rabyd Nation will be presented to you. Last week I had a lot of comments trying to make the claim that atheism is a religion or some sort of religion, faith-based system or something like that, that I actually have faith and things like that. I've had this leveled at me over the many years of this channel time and time again, and I suppose it's time to address it again. But I'm going to do it more in a reaction style. This video is actually quite old, but it gives rise to many of the arguments that theists make in saying that atheism is a religion, at least in spirit, if not in actual words. So I'm going to let Andy Bannister here take it away and kind of explain why he thinks atheism is a religion, and then we'll see if his thoughts have any merit. But here we go.
People often ask me, Andy, why do you keep calling atheism a religion? Isn't atheism just a lack of belief in God? It's not a religion.
Yeah, that is a really odd thing to say. Saying that atheism is a religion is kind of like saying non-stamp collecting is a hobby. I get that many theists like to claim that atheism is faith-based, as a faith-based idea, but most atheists simply lack a belief in any God. So how is it faith-based with a lack of belief? I'd also say that even if you take a strong atheist position, you still don't need undeniable proof that something does not exist to say that it does not exist. I mean, I don't need undeniable proof that leprechauns and unicorns with rainbows coming out of their butts don't exist. I just say they don't exist because there's no evidence that they do. Both positions are saying, I don't believe a God exists, okay? I do not believe. That is no faith, non-belief. But let's see if you have some sort of evidence that atheism is a religion.
Well, I'm afraid that's wrong. That actually the more you look at atheism, the more you realize it's far more than just the lack of a belief in God. Let me show you why. If atheism simply meant the absence of belief in God, the first problem is it would have some very peculiar entailments. It would mean that rocks, small kittens, rubber chickens, Richard Dawkins' left foot are all atheists because all of those things lack a belief in God. That's a very counterintuitive conclusion, and it strongly suggests that atheism is far more than just the absence of a belief in God. That can't be the definition.
Atheist, rock, kitten, rubber chicken, Richard Dawkins' foot. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. Honestly, I think you needed to spend more time with Sesame Street analyzing how things are different from one another. The problem with your list compared to the atheist, any atheist, that none of these things actually has the capacity to believe or not. Only rational minds have the capacity to believe or not. Kittens are cute, but I don't think they get past the attack the ball of yarn for entertainment thoughts for themselves. Two of those things that you give are inanimate objects, and so they don't have the capacity to believe or not believe either. Third, Richard Dawkins' foot is not part of part of the body that he would use to contemplate whether or not God exists or not. That usually requires a brain. So I don't think you're really proving the idea of non-belief being religion with this analogy. It just doesn't really make sense. You really haven't connected the dots between that and religion anyway, because you really haven't given a definition of what religion is, or at least in your mind. So if these things don't even have the capacity to consider if there's a God compared to a person who is an atheist, that really isn't counterintuitive, okay? It's interesting that you're appealing to intuition is not really a good argument. You're basically saying because of other things that don't have the capacity to, think or believe or not believe, therefore atheists are just like them or they are just like atheists. That's not really intuitive either because, as I said, one of these things is not like the other. Also, how does this idea that other things are also atheists somehow mean that atheism is a religion? You really haven't done that. Just because other things might be atheist doesn't give them qualities. Atheism has religious qualities. It doesn't give it religious qualities. To make this analogy work, you would have to prove that rock, kittens, etc. are religious about their atheism. Not off to a good start, Andy, but let's see what else you have.
A second problem with the idea that atheism is merely the lack of belief in God is that if that were the case, how could it form part of someone's core identity? You see, I don't believe in Father Christmas. I don't believe in the Tooth Fairy. But I don't go around introducing myself to people as an A-Tooth Fairyan. That's not what you'll find on my Twitter profile. Yet I regularly meet people who introduce themselves to me as I am an atheist. It forms their core identity. Well, if atheism can form part of someone's identity, it is clearly more than the lack of belief in God.
So your argument basically at this point is that if something forms a part of a person's core identity, that is religiously based. Well, I am also a Stoic philosophically. Does that mean my philosophical Stoicism is a religion? There are a lot of things that can form a person's core identity, like their job, who they're married to, or what role they have in family or society, but that does not also mean that those things are also religious. I mean, I think you're using a pretty broad definition of what religion is. I don't think this works because your definition of religion hasn't been defined, and what you are giving hints as to is pretty broad, general, and open as to what constitutes a religion. That has been the primary problem with this video, which you haven't defined what religion is. You haven't done it, and show how atheism conforms to that definition. It's not like there are not definitions of what religion is that we could agree to and then see if your analysis has merit. But you seem to be just making up a definition in your head that is more intuitive of what religion is and hoping that your audience doesn't realize that you haven't given a definition of what religion is and you're just kind of appealing to their intuition of what religion is. It's kind of weird and dishonest at the same time.
That's also demonstrated by my third piece of evidence, and it's that atheists and secularists are now starting churches. Yeah, they really are. A few years ago in London, England, a group of atheists came together, took over a deconsecrated church in London, and they started something called the Sunday Assembly. They meet together on Sunday mornings, they sing secular songs, they listen to inspirational talks about science. They formed an atheist church, and other such atheist churches are springing up in major cities around the world. So atheism looks like a religion. It is behaving like a belief system. It has churches, it has creeds, it has communities, it has gurus. It really is a religion, a belief system.
Sorry, just because people get together and do all these things still does not make these things a religion. People gathering together based on a certain interest or issue does not make it a religion. I heard about the atheist church, and there are many such assemblies around the world. Hell, there was one in Houston that I almost went to. That still doesn't make it a religion. Let's take some of the same activities you described in the so-called atheist church and put it in a different context. A group of science teachers get together, talk about science, and come up with songs and other activities so they can go back to their classes as better teachers of science. And then they hear motivational speeches about how to be better teachers of science. Does that suddenly make their gathering of science teachers into a religion? Based on your previous description of the atheist church, apparently they are a religion as well, but that doesn't seem to be the case. They got together and did some of the same activities that the atheist church does, but that doesn't mean they're a religion as well. So activities and looking like something doesn't necessarily make something a religion. Just because something behaves like something else doesn't mean it is like that something in its core aspect. The thing that is missing here is what is the core aspect of what makes up a religion? You still haven't defined it. People gathering together at a time for various things have key figures in those things and statements about them. That doesn't make it a religion. Once again, the biggest problem seems to be your lack of definition of what a religion is. And I'm beginning to think that you didn't define it on purpose. Once again, I think you're appealing to the intuition of what people have thought about religion, because if you actually define what a religion is and then compared it to atheism, you would have an immediate problem. Some other things. Atheism has a creed. What is it? We have gurus. Who are they? I don't have an atheist creed I recite every morning, and while I do have some atheist thinkers I respect, and I like their arguments and their thoughts, I don't revere them, and I certainly are not my authorities. I disagree with them, and And, you know, they don't come along and they just don't say, I'm sorry, I'm the authority of atheism. You have to do what I say because I'm the authority of atheism. We don't have that. One of the great projecting qualities, and this is definitely projection that a lot of theists do, is they project on this idea that we are responding to simply some other authority like they do. There isn't any authorities in atheism that tell us what to believe or not believe. There isn't any authoritative book that does that either. There is no creed to recite. Okay, so how are you going to wrap this up? You know, at this point, I'm really not convinced by any of your arguments. Do you have some final zinger that proves your point, or are you going to reveal some sort of other motive?
Now, I say that not to belittle my atheist friends, but just to encourage them to kind of wake up and smell the coffee. You see, if atheism is a belief system, there are some entailments that follow, and one of the biggest ones is this. If atheism is a religion or a belief system, you can't simply assume it. You have to give reasons for it, you have to give evidence. Because if you're not willing to do that, you fall foul of an aphorism once coined by the late new atheist writer himself, Christopher Hitchens, who in his book God Is Not Great wrote these words: "That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence." That applies to Christianity, but my word, does it apply to atheism too? I would suggest that my atheist friends take his advice.
So that's the real motive here, reversing the burden of proof. Sorry, that doesn't work. And your use of Hitchens is laughable. I'm fairly certain that he would be disgusted at it. Because from his perspective, what he is saying, you still have to make the burden of proof of whatever religion you have. And at least you seem to acknowledge that it does apply to Christianity. But how does it apply to anything that is non-belief in nature? The reason that is it's laughable is that I'm not asserting a belief that I have to prove. I'm not giving an assertion. I'm not saying that I believe in a certain thing and then having to provide evidence for any God at all. I don't do that. I don't believe in any gods. Okay, I just say that the evidence for any God is just simply not convincing to me. And so I don't believe in any of them. Okay? I don't think I need to wake up and smell the coffee. What I really needed was you to give me a definition of what religion was or is, and then have you show me how atheism conforms to it. That would have proven that atheism and religion have the same definitional qualities, but you didn't do that. So in the spirit of helping apologists, as I often do, I'm going to do that for you. I get that religion is in some ways hard to define, and you can get a lot of different definitions, but I'm going to use two of them, okay, to kind of illustrate my point of how this would work. Okay, one of the definitions of religion is this: the belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially God or gods. Atheism is the absolute opposite of this definition, so that doesn't work. Believing and worshiping in superhuman powers is something we do not do. So that doesn't work. We don't have any gods or goddesses or anything like that. So that doesn't work either. We don't believe in these things and we don't worship them. So this definition definitely doesn't correlate with any kind of definition of atheism I've ever heard of. So let's try another one. A particular system of faith and worship. That's a pretty interesting definition of religion, but I think it's also true. System. Nope, there isn't a system to my non-belief. It's just non-belief. Faith. No, we have the opposite of that. Worship. What? We don't worship anything. See, I think the key element with religion is a system of worship. Okay, it's the worship part. What do we worship? I don't worship Jack. Okay, I don't worship anything. But, you know, as I go through this now, I suddenly realize that wouldn't have made a very good video for you, would it? It would have been shorter than this one, and the answer would have been, well, folks, these two definitions don't line up with what atheism is, so we might have to accept that atheism isn't a religion. So the answer to the question is atheism a religion is no. Sorry, folks. But, you know, it doesn't seem to be making a claim, but rather as a statement about other people's claims. That these claims of, you know, gods and we need to worship them and we need to believe in them, I just don't see any evidence for that. It's actually quite counter to what any definition of religion you would make. I have this word to you, apologists. Stop being motivated as an apologist trying to disprove other viewpoints or religion, as it does not prove yours is true. Focus on doing what your book commands you to do, as if you are a Christian. Give reasons for the hope that is within you, and do it with respect. It is not respectful to do a video like this with the whole intention of reversing the burden of proof by trying to create some sort of tenuous connection between religion and atheism, and then you don't even have the respect of atheism or religion to even give a definition of either that all of us would accept, and then trying to draw an actual correlation between the two. I don't have to prove my non-belief in your God any more than you don't have to prove your non-belief in any God that you don't believe in. My guess is if somebody came up to you on the street and said, you have to prove the non-existence of Thor, Zeus, or Vishnu because I believe in those things, and it's not rational for you to not prove their non-existence before you don't believe in them, you would say that you don't have to, because the burden of proof lies on the people who believes in Thor, Zeus, or Vishnu. And you do not have to justify your non-belief in them. And you would be correct, and I would agree with you. Sorry, atheism is not a religion. It's not a worldview in and of itself, although it can be part of one. It is simply not believing in any God claims. We just take that idea of non-belief in certain deities to all of them, and not just hold our special pleading around to the one that we happen to hold to, because we don't hold to any. Okay, the real problem that I have with this whole argument that it is, atheism is a religion, is it is absolutely a massive amount of projection. Okay, there is no quality in atheism that involves faith or worship or supernatural beings. These things are what in the essence and core make up what a religion is. It doesn't have anything to do with atheism. My encouragement to all you apologists out there is quit projecting. Quit projecting your belief, your worship, your systems, your desire for creeds and gurus on me, because I don't have any of those things. And I get tired of the dishonest ploy here. It really is a very dishonest and weird thing to do, because even if you could prove that some sort of supernatural being exists, you still have all your work out of you, as Christopher Hitchens also used to say. You still have to prove your particular deity. You have to prove your particular afterlife. You have to prove your plan of salvation or life or spirituality or whatever. Just because you prove that maybe a supernatural entity does exist, it doesn't change the fact that you still have all the other claims to prove. My point as an atheist is I don't believe any of your claims because they lack evidence. Okay, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm a 6.969 atheist because A, it's funny, and B, it is an accurate reflection of me leaving the door open a slight crack for anybody that will come in with evidence for their God claim. And so far, none of you have worked out. Okay, none of you have provided any historical reasons for me to believe in it. None of you have given me scientific reasons. None of you have given me anything I could take to a court of law and have it stand up. And the reason is because religion is inherently about asserting things without evidence. And that's why I don't believe in it, the lack of evidence. And until I get some sort of evidence that is historically verified, that has scientific backing to it, that I could take into a court of law and a judge and the attorneys involved would accept it as evidence, you got nothing. You have none of that with any religion. Religion truly is about faith in supernatural beings and has a system of where you worship those supernatural beings. Atheism doesn't have any of that. Just accept it. Well, thanks once again for stopping by. I appreciate every like, share, and subscribe. You guys are really awesome. Thank you for all the things that you do. And I want to give a special shout out to my members, to my citizens, to my Rabyd citizens. They're the ones that really continue to motivate me in doing what I do. So thank you once again to them for your support. And if you want to buy your citizenship into the Rabyd Nation, hit the join button and your membership options will be presented to you. And membership leads to citizenship. Thanks once again for stopping by. As always, live your best life. Don't waste your time, your money, your energy on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. Instead, give all those things to yourself, to the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.